Selamat malam everyone. Other than that, I know one more other term in Bahasa, and that's all I know, which is senang berkenalan dengan anda. That's all I know. That's all I know. I've used up all my Bahasa vocab for today. Not a clue, but okay. So I'm from Couchbase. I'm a solutions engineer, and my team had just stepped out. We have Aisha and Keith, who is a sales rep and partner director. Now, before joining Couchbase, I was a tech consultant, which is why the last slide of Audi's slide really got me. It depends, right? So, in my time in Accenture, I was a tech consultant. I dealt a lot with MongoDB, a lot with RDMS to NoSQL migrations, and one of the pain points that a lot of my customers had was, if I'm able to train my developers, I'm missing out my architects, my project managers, my business analysts, my data scientists who need access to the database. So when I was looking for my next job, I was out there looking around in the database market, and I came across Couchbase. Now, how many of you here have heard of Couchbase? Be proud and raise your hand. Okay, that's less than 5. Now, within Couchbase, we have a running joke that Couchbase is the industry's best kept secret. Right? So today's session, I'm very happy that all of you are here because I'll be sharing the secret with you. Right? And hopefully, you would agree with me that it is indeed a secret and not rubbish which is chucked aside. So, if we think about the mission critical applications today, what do we think of? We think of FSI, right? Your banking applications. We think about e-commerce, Tokopedia, Shopee. And we think about gaming applications. Now, a lot of these customers are actually users of Couchbase. And later on, we'll actually deep dive into some of these customers, how they're using Couchbase, and maybe not, you may already be a user of Couchbase. Then we'll talk a little bit about why these customers choose Couchbase. Why don't they choose DynamoDB, Aerospike, MongoDB? We'll talk a little bit about that. And then I want to do a demo to show you guys what the true power of Couchbase is. And then we'll talk a little bit about how, as a developer, you can start programming and start coding your applications with the back end of Couchbase. And then we'll wrap things up with a quick Q&A. So my role at Couchbase is a solutions engineer. Right? So every time I'm in a meeting with my customers, all I hear are problems. Problems about why their database is not so good, the problems with relational database being too rigid, not being able to store semi-structured, unstructured data, and of course, performance. Right? So I've kind of narrowed down or summarized what I'm hearing, and I hope maybe you'll find this relatable. So the first thing is that when developing their applications, they want to deliver a great experience to their customers. So you could think of it, right? But why do you love the e-commerce platform that you use today? It is performant. Whether you are in the city center of Jakarta or whether you are chilling by the beaches in Bali, you want the same user experience. Right? You want your feed to be personalized to yourself and not everyone getting the same items. Right? So our software engineer at Tokopedia is nodding his head. Now, the second point which I'm hearing from my customers is, when I'm choosing a database, how can I get my teams on board as fast as possible? Now imagine this, right? So most of us here are developers. Imagine now I'm giving you one new database, and in order for you to start developing your application, you need weeks and months to learn a new query language. That's a pain. That's a pain. Right? So what Couchbase has provided, and later on in the demo I'll actually show you guys, is we use the exact same syntax as your standard SQL. And on top of that, we have many of your favorite SDKs. So I'm speaking today to JVM, but I know some of you guys here prefer Python, or prefer JS, or prefer .NET. Right? So Couchbase has all of these SDKs, which means as a developer, if you choose to use Couchbase, you can start developing just like that, right? The next thing. Now, the last point which I hear from my customers is, how can they deploy effectively? So, let's face it, right? Not every customer that I have is Tokopedia, or Unilever. Right? Some customers are just starting out small. They just started yesterday, and they don't have money to buy infrastructure. So what they might choose to do is to use cloud technology. Right? When they need to scale, they add nodes in, they add servers in, small ones, and when the peak is over, they simply undeploy those EC2 instances or VMs. Right? So that is something which we help our customers with. Cloud deployment, public cloud, hybrid cloud, private cloud, on-prem deployments, and even on your mobile devices. So we'll touch a little bit about that later on. Now, Audi has already covered this in his slide, but I thought let's refresh it real quick. So the debate has gone on forever, right? When do I choose an RDBMS versus a NoSQL database? So I did a bit of a history lesson about databases. So an RDBMS was created about 70 years ago, right? And it was to solve one problem. Now, does anyone know what the problem is? Fair, I didn't know as well. It was the payroll problem, right? So if I'm transferring money to you, money has to be credited from my account and debited into yours. Both must happen or none can happen, right? It wouldn't make sense for money to come out of mine and not go into yours, or money not coming out of mine but going into yours. So I think Audi had talked about that. So this is really transactions. But if you think about deploying an RDBMS, right, you need to do things like normalizing your data, coming up with an ERD, and for all your columns, you need to predefine them. Now, as applications have evolved, not all requirements are transactional requirements. Right? Sometimes you might add things to your cart, but you don't check them out. And as features get developed, you want your data model to change as your application is developing. So that was the reason why a NoSQL database was created, to give you the flexibility to change your data model as and when you need to. Now, what Couchbase said was stop the debate between an RDBMS and a NoSQL database, because we'll provide you with the best of both worlds. Now, what I mean by this is, we are a NoSQL JSON document database, but we give you the capabilities to do transactions, we give you ANSI standard joins, and we also give you SQL++, which is our query language, which has exactly the same syntax as your standard SQL. So what this means is, if you are programming today using select, from, where clause, group by, order by, limit, you can already run the same query on Couchbase, even though we are a NoSQL database. Now, we talked a little bit about the history of databases, but I thought, let's talk one slide really quickly about the history of Couchbase. So, we were founded in 2011, much later than MongoDB or DynamoDB. Right? So, later on you'll see the benefits of coming out later in the market. Now, today we have actually more than 900 employees, so this slide should be updated. We are available on all the clouds that you can think of. Right? So, AWS, Azure, GCP, Ali Cloud, so on and so forth. And we are Nasdaq listed as well. Right? So, if you take a look at our stock prices, they're actually going up, right? And for good reasons. So, what I would say is, if you think Couchbase is a good product, you know what to do. Now, before I go into some of the more specific use cases, I thought, let's share with you guys our customers across different industries. So, when I stay in Jakarta, and I come to Jakarta quite often, I stay at the JW Marriott by Kuningan. Now, when I go to the hotel, I log on onto my Marriott Bonvoy application, and I'm already a user of Couchbase, right? Because the Marriott app runs on Couchbase. Now, if you took a Gojek or a Grab to today's venue, and you use your credit card to make the payment, that credit card transaction went through FICO, which has the product called FICO Falcon. Now, it does fraud monitoring, right, to determine whether it is indeed you who is taking the Grab. Now, personally, I'm a huge gamer, right? I played FIFA since FIFA 08. Now, today it's called EAFC. I hate the game. I bought it, but I hate the game. I play F1 as well. So, FIFA and F1 were developed by EA Sport, right? And EA is our customer. So, if you play EA and you're logging in, you're accessing your data to play the game that you love, you already are a user of Couchbase. Now, When I was in primary school, I used to play Farmville on Facebook. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that game. But Zynga was the developer of Farmville. Right, so if you're not too sure what Farmville is, it's a pretty mindless game. You grow crops, you harvest crops, and it's all good fun. Right? But today, Zynga, they have developed Zynga Poker, which is the #1 poker game on the App Store, iOS, and Google Play. Right? And so if you play Zynga Poker, you also are a user of Couchbase. Now, there are a couple over here, and if you see a customer that you find familiar and you want to know how they're using Couchbase, just let me know, we can have a discussion. Right? So you might be wondering, yeah, Ben, you've told me about this application, that application, but why do they choose Couchbase? Now, if I want you to leave with anything today, it is that Couchbase is the most performant NoSQL database in the market, right now. Right? So if you think about MongoDB, MongoDB isn't as performant, and if you want it to be performant, you need to add in a caching layer like Redis. So we are the most performant NoSQL database in the market. Now the second reason why customers choose Couchbase is because of flexibility. Right? The ability to have NoSQL database, schemaless, but that really comes with any other NoSQL database. Right? Now the third point why some customers choose Couchbase is because Couchbase can be deployed on your mobile and your iPad and your IoT devices. So one of our customers within the region is Prudential. Right? So Prudential does insurance sales, if you don't know who they are. So if you bought an insurance package or a life plan from your friend who became an insurance agent, and he brings along an iPad, well, that iPad, that application runs on the back end of Couchbase. And by running Couchbase on the iPad, he's able to take the iPad to the remote areas, the kampongs, the warungs, where there is limited to no internet connectivity, have all the data mutations be stored on Couchbase Lite, and when he's back in an area with some internet connectivity, the replication takes place automatically. He doesn't have to hit retry. Now, in the next few slides, you'll see Couchbase is a NoSQL database, but we provide many services, allowing our customers to save their total cost of ownership. Now, one customer we have is LinkedIn. Now, I would assume most of us here, if not all of us here, use LinkedIn. Right? Now, if you don't use LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a social network platform for professionals. So you would use LinkedIn to post your certifications, or to view what your colleague has posted, or to even look for a job. Right? So that's what LinkedIn is used for. Now, LinkedIn was previously on Oracle. But as you can imagine, right, as more university graduates are graduating and they're looking for jobs and they are joining LinkedIn's user base, LinkedIn needed to scale. And with Oracle, they weren't able to scale in an effective manner. So then they started looking at the market, looking for a NoSQL database, looking for a performant database. And after doing their assessments and their evaluations, they had chosen Couchbase. And today, whenever you refresh a page on LinkedIn and you're getting the good performance, you already are a user of Couchbase. That's one thing to take away. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the FSIs, because let's face it, right, FSIs run the most mission-critical applications in today's world. Now, the first one I talked about was FICO Falcon. So FICO develops FICO Falcon, which is used for fraud monitoring, fraud transactions. So if you took, use your credit card recently, all of those transactions goes through FICO Falcon for fraud detection. Now, when I talk about Wells Fargo to my Indonesian customers, they look at me funny because it's not very popular here. But literally, Wells Fargo is the #1 bank in America. So if you've got friends or relatives or colleagues who are in the US, more likely than not, they would have a Wells Fargo credit card. And Wells Fargo, in the past, they were using ISAM file storage system, and it wasn't performant enough, it wasn't scalable enough. So then they were looking around in the market for a NoSQL database, and today they're doing debit PIN, debit signature, and deposit transaction monitoring for fraud. So that is what the FSIs are using Couchbase for. Now, another use case in the FSI industry is really around banking sales. So I was speaking to one customer the other day, and he does loans. And he told me, Ben, my agent has to cross a river in order to meet his clients. Do you think there's going to be internet connectivity there? No. So how am I going to solve this problem? And then, me being a solutions engineer, I have to think of a solution for him. And that's how we actually thought about this architecture. So Couchbase Capella is our database as a service. So think of it as a central database. Now on your device, you would have Couchbase Lite, which is a full-feature, lightweight, embedded database. Now, when a user downloads the application, it comes with Couchbase Lite in it. So what this means is, if you go to an area with no internet connectivity, all your data mutations can be stored on Couchbase Lite. And when there is internet connectivity, the replication takes place automatically. Right? So wealth managers use this for banks. Prudential uses this for insurance sales. UPS uses this. So if you had bought something on Black Friday sale, or you're looking to buy something on 12/12, and it comes from Amazon, and it's delivered by your UPS delivery man, right, that is powered by Couchbase. Now, a lot of my customers think about what happens when things go well. Right? So sure, when there's internet connectivity, your application runs well, it connects to the backend perfectly fine. But as a developer, as an IT manager, you have to think about what happens when there is unstable internet connectivity, or even no internet connectivity. And what my customers usually come to me with is a problem where the application goes down, and it results in business downtime, application downtime, and a loss in revenue. So with Couchbase, we are able to solve this by having Couchbase Lite on your device, by providing you with the replication technology, and this is out of the box, and also the central database. So this is how we help our customers solve those kinds of problems. Now, one customer that we have, and this session is recorded, so I can't tell you the name, but it's a customer in the banking space. So they were developing a trading application that had to accommodate our traders in Jakarta, but also our traders in North America, so that is US and Canada, but also the traders in EMEA, so UK. Now, they were previously on Oracle when they were developing this application. Now, if you're familiar with Oracle, Oracle's replication technology is called Golden Gate. And they were limited to only 2 geographical regions. So this bank didn't have a choice. Right? They needed to look in the market for a mature, but also a performant replication technology. And they had chosen Couchbase to achieve an active setup. So a tree-active setup. Right? So this is something which you can do with Couchbase, and it's something which I'll be demonstrating today. Now, this slide often gets me a lot of hate from developers, from architects, everyone who is technical, because it oversimplifies how things look. Right? But I wanted to show what the expectation is versus what the reality of things are. So the expectation of things are that you have an application, a front end, and as a back-end engineer, you would connect it to the database, and this database lives on some sort of infrastructure, right? Physical hardware or virtual machines. Now, more often than not, my customers come to me with this kind of architecture diagram, where they start off developing with an RDBMS, like Postgres, or SQL Server, or Oracle, and as management thinks about the future trends of data, then they have to choose a NoSQL database, and if they are unfortunate enough, they might have chosen MongoDB or DynamoDB. And the reason why I say they're unfortunate enough is because after a couple of weeks and months, when they hit their first sale, touch wood, it isn't 11.11, they realize that the performance isn't good enough. And that's when they think of a solution like Redis, a caching layer, or AWS DEX to speed up their DynamoDB. And then management comes to them the next day and says, hey Pap, we need high availability. We have users in Jakarta, but we also have users in Bali and Bandung. We need to serve those users. We need to give them the same user experience. Or management might say, we need disaster recovery. So one data center in Indonesia, but one data center where Ben is in Singapore. So then, as an architect, you need to think of another solution, like Oracle Golden Gate. Now, as developers, we like to think about fuzzy search, right? We like that kind of capability. Right? So imagine you're shopping on Tokopedia and you're looking to buy some banana. Now, you miss out the last A and it becomes bananan. You want a solution that can say, did you mean banana? And if you did mean banana, here are all the sellers, limited to 10, who sell bananas, from highest rating to lowest rating. Right? So that is something which requires a different solution, like Elasticsearch. Now, as more and more requirements come up, more and more solutions get added to the stack. And eventually, you end up with this, a big mess. Right? So, a lot of times, my customers come to me and say, I have a problem, because who do I go to? Do I go to the NoSQL provider? Do I go to the RDBMS solution provider? Or do I go to my partner who built me this whole damn thing? So that is a problem which I'm hearing from my customers literally every day. Now, Couchbase was founded in 2011, much later than all of these other solution providers. So we identified the problems that they had, and we came up with all of these services out of one license. So you might be wondering, Couchbase, how did you guys come up with that name? Like Couchbase. Is it sofa? What do you guys sell? Sofas? No. Couchbase actually was a merger of two companies, right? CouchDB, which is a JSON document database, and Membase, which is a caching technology. So it came together and it became Couchbase. So at our core, we really are a NoSQL JSON document database with integrated caching. Now this means that all of your data, or a portion of your data, can live in RAM. Now if you're familiar already, when you retrieve data from RAM, it's going to be much, much faster than retrieving data from your disk. So that is how a lot of our customers, like LinkedIn, is able to give you that good performance and a good user experience. Now, as time went on, we brought about relational capabilities also. So, Audi mentioned transactions. Our customers wanted transactions, and that is what we provided to them. The ability to do commits, rollbacks, but also we provided to them the query language which they loved. No one likes querying and studying a new query language. So we are providing you the query language which you already are familiar with. Select from where clause, same in Couchbase. NC standard joins is another one that we brought to the table. A lot of our customers use joins. It is expensive, but they love it, right? They love joins. So that is what we brought to our customers as well. Now, full text search is another one. So if you're thinking, what solution provider on top of my database can I use to do fuzzy search? Couchbase provides you with all of those services out of one license, right? And today we'll be doing a demo on geo-replication and sync, so I'll leave that to the next couple of slides. Now, it's not often that I get to speak to an audience for 45 minutes long. Right? Sometimes I'm at booth duty. Right? So DevOps Festival is one of them. So if you come to DevOps Festival, you might see me. AWS Summit is also another one of them. And sometimes the people that come up to me are very aggressive. They say, Ben, 1 minute, no longer than 1 minute, tell me what Couchbase is good for. And I tell them, Fab, if I want you to take away anything today, is that Couchbase is extremely, extremely fast because of our memory-first architecture. When you write data to your database and when you read data from your database, it comes from, it's okay, memory first. Now, the second point is flexibility. So if you're coming from an RDBMS, we are providing you the flexibility just like any other NoSQL database would provide you. Now the third point is what other NoSQL databases don't have, which is flexibility. We allow you to deploy on-prem, on the cloud, on VMs, on Kubernetes, even on your mobile devices. But not only that, we provide you with the familiarity to run queries the same way you would run them in an RDBMS. And we provide you with the SDKs that your developers are already familiar with. And the last point is affordability. Now, look at all of these services here. Couchbase provides you all of these services out of one license. Now, everyone should be smiling except my awesome sales rep here. Because, because what this means is that Couchbase is exactly, right? Many of these solution providers provide you one service. That's it. And what this means is that they get money by earning from that one service. But Couchbase provides you all of these services out of one license. And what this means is, it is great for organizations, it is great for developers. It's not good for us. It's not good for selling. Right? So that's what Couchbase offers. Now, I'll be talking a little bit about what I'm going to be demoing. Right? So, I wanted to start off a little bit with the requirements. So sometimes my customers will tell me, I want active-active. I want my users in Jakarta to have the same user experience if they are in Bali. Right? So this means that I want an active-active database setup. Sometimes my customers come to me with a different requirement and they say, I want active standby. Right? I want disaster recovery scenario. When my Jakarta cluster, when a Godzilla attack happens in Jakarta, I want my only survivor to still be accessing my application because I have a standby in Singapore or in Hong Kong. And so different requirements, different use case. So what I'll be doing, or what I'll be showcasing today, is I have one database hosted in AWS Jakarta. I have another database hosted in AWS Singapore. And the configuration, or rather the specs of these clusters, is that they are all 3-node clusters, 16 vCPU, and 128 gigs of RAM. And what I'll be doing is replicating 100 million documents from my database in Jakarta to my database in Singapore. So what I'm going to show you in the next couple of minutes is me configuring XDCR, or Cross Data Center Replication, and the moment I hit configure or set up replication, I want everyone to take out their phones. Not to text, not to scroll through Instagram or TikTok, but I want you to open up your stopwatch application and to do a timing to see how fast XDCR is. So let me walk over to this table. Now everyone has noted the time, so let's proceed on. Okay, I don't normally like to do this because it's almost like we feel insecure and we want to compare ourselves with our competitors. But I figured, you guys are developers, you guys are IT managers, you want to make an informed decision when deciding what database to use. Whether it's a relational database, whether it's a NoSQL database, and if it is a NoSQL database, which one? So, a lot of my customers come from MongoDB, which is why it's the first row. Now, MongoDB is a JSON document database, just like Couchbase, except they are not in memory. So that is the reason why a lot of my customers who use MongoDB have got performance issues. Not only that, you would see here under SQL query, it's blank, because their query language is extremely, extremely difficult to learn, and if you are going to run a complex query, good luck to you. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, I had the experience to do MongoDB deployments, and I had to run queries, and oftentimes they weren't too successful. Right? And when they were successful, I'm in, right? It's blessed the Lord time, right? And I really, it was a challenging time, right? Not only for me, but for my customers. So that is the problem with MongoDB. Now, you will look at Redis. So Redis is a caching solution. Right? Your data is stored in memory, but the problem with Redis is it doesn't support transactions. So what MongoDB can do, Redis can't do. And what Redis can do, MongoDB can't do. And what this means as an organization is, you need to buy both products. You need to buy 2 licenses, you need to have 2 sets of infrastructure. A lot of money. Now, we take a look at other solutions in the market, right? Elasticsearch. They only do full text search. So they're not even a good database for your applications if you want them to run in good performance and low latency. So now, all of these solution providers has got its gap. And Couchbase, being founded much later than all of them, Sure, it means that we have to educate our audience, but it also means that we are able to solve the problems which the other databases and the other solution providers have. So, if you find this slide useful, just come up to me later. I will send it to your email. It's not a problem at all. Yeah, I see a couple of phones up there, so let you guys take a quick picture of it before I move on. Okay, now this is a really fun activity I like to do with all my customers and my audience. Right? So at this point, I'll give you just 3 seconds to spot the difference between a relational query statement in the middle here and a Couchbase SQL++ query statement. Now chances are, you're not going to be able to spot the difference because it is exactly the same. Right? I promised it was the same syntax and it really is the same syntax. So what this means as a developer is, if you run a query like this on MS SQL or Oracle, you would be able to run it exactly the same in Couchbase. Now, this is the point where I draw comparison to MQL on the right here. On the left, sorry. Now, MQL is extremely complex, like what Audi had showed you earlier, right? So chances are, if you haven't learned MQL and you're not experienced with MongoDB, you're going to be thinking this is a bunch of gibberish. And when I first ran some queries, I had a headache. Right? I was pulling out my hair, but luckily I read Couchbase white paper and I still have some hair today. So we configured XDCR, but I wanted to talk a little bit about, more in depth about XDCR. What our customers use it for, why it's good, how is it so fast? Okay, that's how my slide is supposed to look like. I got a bit of a shock. So Couchbase deals with HA, high availability, and DR, disaster recovery, both within the cluster and across clusters. So within the cluster, it looks something like this. Right? You have the Couchbase cluster, which in this case is made up of 3 nodes. Now, when the application server writes data to Couchbase, it first, Couchbase being a distributed database, when it comes in, it gets automatically sharded or distributed. So in this case, I have 3 nodes, so it's sharded. You have active 1, active 2, and active 3. Now, what Couchbase does under the hood is that it replicates your data. So if your data is written to node number 1, it goes active 1, but it will also create a replica in a different node. So it could be node 2 or it could be node 3. Right? And what this means is, when one node goes down, your application server is going to ping that node, it's going to realize it's down, and it's going to go to the node where the replica is. And the beauty of it is that both the active and the replica of your data live in memory. So when the DBA comes in, adds a healthy node back into the cluster, what your end user is experiencing is he doesn't even realize that a node went down because he gets the same good user experience. Now, I want to talk a little bit about MongoDB's architecture. Right? So how MongoDB works is that between your application server and your MongoDB cluster, you have one node, which is called the orchestrator node. So as the name suggests, orchestrator, right? It redirects the query to the node that you want to find your data from. Now, what happens when this node goes down is your application has some downtime because a new node has to be added. A new orchestrator node has to be added. And what Couchbase calls this is a master-slave architecture. You are fully reliant on the orchestrator node to find your data from the 3 nodes that you have. Now, Couchbase, obviously coming out later, we identified the problem and we said, let's do a masterless architecture, where if you have 3 application servers, in this case you have 2 application servers, each of these application servers has got a Couchbase client map. And the client map knows exactly where your active copy of your data is and your replica copy of your data is. So we are removing that orchestrator node problem, that master-slave architecture problem. So that is how we deal with high availability within the cluster. Now, my customers, some of them are really big. Right? So one of my customers is the largest e-commerce company in Japan. I can't say the name because this session is recorded. but you can probably guess what the company is. Now, they wanted high availability because they had users in Tokyo, but also users nearer to Osaka. So they said, depending on where the user is, I want a DNS pointer to point to the cluster which is nearer to him. So they want active setup. And to that I said, sure, not a problem. Right? So they were able to do that. Now, Prudential on the other hand, wanted active standby. So you can have one cluster within Indonesia, but a standby cluster somewhere else. Hong Kong, Singapore, whatever. So that is what Couchbase provides you. Right? The ability to do active standby, but in some cases, our customers, like you would have seen in the earlier slide, they wanted active. So that is what Couchbase is able to do as well. And in the configuration for today, I have done active. Right? One cluster in Jakarta and another cluster in Singapore. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how XDCR, or Cross Data Center Replication, is so fast. Now, Couchbase has this concept called DCP, or Data Change Protocol. Don't need to really remember the name. If you wanted to, I could teach you. Right? I could give you a lesson real quick. Now, when data mutations are being made to your database, it is monitored by DCP. So think of it as a CDC, right? Change Data Capture. So whether you are doing insert, upsert, delete, update, those counts as data mutations. And DCP watches them. DCP captures them. And XDCR, which is our replication technology, consumes DCP. So when DCP captures the change, XDCR consumes that change. Right? And then it populates it to your secondary cluster. Now, I have a few bullet points here that I really wanted to touch on because I wanted to convey the value of XDCR. Number one is, no additional license comes with XDCR. So if you need the ability to replicate your data to a different country, to a different region, you can do it with Couchbase without another license. The second point is, you have seen me configure the XDCR. It literally took less than a minute. Now I'm doing this on cloud, but if you're doing this on-prem, it would be no different. You simply put the host name of your secondary cluster. That's how easy it is. The third point is, XDCR is infrastructure agnostic, which means your active could be on-prem, your standby could be on the cloud, but also it could be on-prem to on-prem, or from the cloud to on-prem, or in this case, what I just showed you was cloud to cloud. So we really don't care what kind of infrastructure you're using. We'll support you either ways. The next point is that we're highly performant. So, I kind of forgot. What time did I start the XDCR? Or if someone has a stopwatch who started the timer, can you tell me, just shout it out, how long that is?
10 minutes.
10 minutes? Perfect. So, in no time, you're going to see how performant XDCR is. Right? So, 10 minutes, but obviously we have to take about 2 to 3 minutes for the peering. So, let's take a look at it for yourself. Right? I want you to be the judge for yourself of how performant XDCR is. Now, the last point is when you have such a setup, high availability, active, or active standby, you are making your application more resilient. So the next time something goes wrong, no one's going to come to you and say, why is the application you developed like that? Because you have a database that supports you to develop a more resilient architecture. And I hope that makes sense. Now, before I go back into the demo, I wanted to show you guys how can you get started with Couchbase. Whether you are a .NET developer, or whether you are using JS, or whether you are in this community because you love Java so much, I want to show you guys how you can get started. Now, right, so this is the slide that I wanted. Right, so if you go to couchbase.live, that is our sandbox environment, or playground environment. So it really takes you through all the different SDKs that we have. Right? So whether you are a Java developer, or whether you are a JS developer, or whether you develop mobile applications right, using Kotlin, which is also a group run by Kang Hadi over here. Right? So it really, you can go into couchbase.live and get started immediately. Now, what you would learn from couchbase.live is how to connect to your applications, how to run KV operations, So that is gets and sets, if you're not familiar, but also how to query data and how to do your simple CRUD operations. Right? We've seen this, the replication of 100 million documents, and also the configuration, which takes some DBAs weeks and months to configure. And with that, I come to the end of presentation, and I thank everyone for your time.